From a forgotten storage locker purchased for $100 to Elon Musk's million-dollar treasure, the iconic submarine car that transformed Bond history was piloted by a Navy SEAL in full scuba gear, had its bubbles created by Alka-Seltzer tablets, and was secretly codenamed after a famous swimming movie star. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about the Spy Who Loved Me's Lotus Esprit submarine car. Fact 1. Storage locker. Treasure worth 10,000x its purchase price. After filming wrapped on The Spy Who Loved Me, the submarine car went on a promotional tour before being shipped to a storage facility in Long Island, New York. Someone paid for a 10-year lease up front, intending to keep the famous movie prop safe, but then something strange happened. The car was simply forgotten. When the lease expired in 1989, nobody came forward to claim it, so the storage company did what they do with abandoned units and put the contents up for auction. This wasn't one of those auctions where you get to peek inside first. It was completely blind, meaning bidders had no idea what they were buying. A local couple took a chance and won the unit for roughly $100, expecting to find typical storage unit fare like old furniture or boxes of junk. When they cracked open the door and pulled back some dusty blankets, they discovered a white Lotus Esprit sitting there in the darkness. Here's where it gets even more unusual. Neither the husband nor wife had ever watched a James Bond movie in their entire lives, so they had absolutely no clue what they were looking at or why this particular car might be valuable. As they loaded it onto a flatbed truck to haul it home, CB radio-equipped truckers started going crazy on the airwaves, radioing the couple to tell them they had just scored one of the most famous movie cars in cinema history. That $100 gamble on a mystery storage unit eventually turned into a nearly $1 million payday when the couple authenticated the car and put it up for auction 24 years later. Fact 2. Elon Musk bought it for nearly $1 million. Once the couple realized what they had discovered in that storage locker, they contacted Doug Redenius, co-founder of the Ian Fleming Foundation, who authenticated that this was indeed the genuine submarine car used in underwater filming for The Spy Who Loved Me. Over the next 2 decades, they occasionally displayed the Lotus at museums and car shows, including a stint at the prestigious Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles, but mostly kept it carefully stored away. In September of 2013, they decided it was time to sell and consigned the car to RM Auctions in Battersea, South London. The auction house estimated it would fetch between £650,000 and £950,000, calling it one of the most iconic cars in movie history. When bidding opened, a mysterious telephone bidder ultimately won with an offer of £550,000, which converted to roughly $997,000. The winning bidder's identity remained secret at first, but was later revealed to be Elon Musk, founder of Tesla and SpaceX. Musk explained to automotive journalist Site Jalopnik why he was so determined to own this particular movie prop, saying it was amazing as a little kid in South Africa to watch James Bond drive his Lotus Esprit off a pier, press a button, and have it transform into a submarine underwater. He admitted being disappointed to learn the car couldn't actually transform in real life, adding that he planned to upgrade it with a Tesla electric powertrain and try to make it transform for real. The Lotus Esprit's wedge-shaped design even served as partial inspiration for Tesla's controversial Cybertruck, proving that childhood movie memories can influence billion-dollar companies decades later. Fact 3. It was codenamed after swimming star Esther Williams. During the early stages of production for The Spy Who Loved Me, the filmmakers wanted to keep the submarine car concept completely secret, so they came up with a clever codename to use in script drafts and production meetings. They called it Esther Williams. This wasn't just a random name pulled out of thin air, but rather a playful reference to one of Hollywood's most famous aquatic performers. Esther Williams was a champion swimmer who became a massive movie star in the 1940s and 1950s, appearing in spectacular MGM musicals built entirely around elaborate underwater swimming sequences filmed in Technicolor. Her movies featured synchronized swimming, underwater ballet, and stunning water choreography that had never been seen before on screen, making her synonymous with anything involving glamorous underwater action. By codenaming their submarine car after her, the Bond production team was making a cheeky inside joke about their own ambitious underwater filming plans. As production continued and the car moved into actual construction, the crew eventually settled on a different nickname that would stick permanently: Wet Nellie. This new name paid homage to Little Nellie, the weaponized autogyro mini-helicopter that Sean Connery's Bond flew in the 1967 film You Only Live Twice. Little Nellie itself had been named after Nellie Wallace, a famous British music hall actress and comedian from the early 20th century. The wet prefix was added because, unlike the airborne Little Nellie, this Nellie operated underwater, making it literally wet during every take. The name Wet Nellie appears in the official novelization of The Spy Who Loved Me, written by screenwriter Christopher Wood, cementing it as the car's permanent identity in Bond lore. Fact 4. Navy SEAL pilot sat underwater in full scuba gear. When most people watch the underwater sequences in The Spy Who Loved Me, they assume the interior of the Lotus submarine must have been a dry, watertight compartment like a real submarine, allowing the actors to sit comfortably inside. The reality of filming was completely different and far more challenging. The submarine version of the Lotus, nicknamed Wet Nellie, was designed as what's technically called a wet submersible, meaning the entire interior was flooded with water during operation. There was no dry cabin whatsoever, just a basic platform surrounded by batteries, motors, propellers, ballast tanks, and other equipment needed to make the vehicle move underwater. The person chosen to pilot this unusual craft was Don Griffin, a retired United States Navy SEAL who worked as a technician and test pilot for Perry Oceanographic, the Florida-based company that built the submarine. During every single underwater take, Griffin had to wear full scuba diving gear, including a wetsuit, mask, fins, and oxygen tanks strapped to his back, sitting on that platform completely submerged in seawater. He operated motorized propellers and levered steering mechanisms while cold ocean water swirled all around him, maneuvering the Lotus through the crystal clear waters off Nassau in the Bahamas, where the underwater scenes were filmed. The car actually required a crew of 2 to operate, so Griffin wasn't alone in there. Another diver sat with him to help control the various systems. The louvers that deployed over the windscreen during the transformation sequence served a dual purpose. They were supposed to look like they were strengthening the glass and against water pressure, but their real function was hiding Griffin and his co-pilot from the camera, because seeing 2 scuba divers inside would have ruined the illusion. Fact 5. Air bubbles. Created by Alka-Seltzer tablets, one of the most realistic touches in the underwater sequences is the steady stream of air bubbles trailing behind the Lotus submarine as it glides through the ocean, making it look convincingly like a real vehicle moving through water. Those bubbles weren't accidental. They were carefully created using one of the simplest special effects tricks in the entire production. For the miniature model shots, which were filmed by special effects supervisor Derek Meddings and his team, they used a massive stockpile of Alka-Seltzer tablets dropped into the water around the models. The fizzing tablets produced a continuous trail of bubbles that followed the miniature Lotus perfectly, creating exactly the effect the filmmakers needed. Interestingly, the production team initially planned to take a different approach that would have eliminated bubbles entirely. They explored using rebreather units for the divers piloting the full-size submarine, since rebreathers recycle exhaled air and don't release bubbles into the water. However, after some testing and discussion, the filmmakers completely reversed course and decided that bubbles were actually essential to selling the effect. Without any bubbles at all, they realized audiences might think they were watching a model car in a studio tank rather than a real vehicle moving underwater. The bubbles trailing from the scuba divers' regular aqualungs gave the submarine a much more realistic and dynamic appearance, making it clear this was something substantial moving through actual ocean water. Safety was also a factor. Regular scuba equipment was much safer and more reliable than rebreathers for the extended filming schedule. So those bubbles you see weren't just acceptable, they were a deliberate creative choice. Fact 6. The cement was actually gray oatmeal. During the thrilling car chase sequence in Sardinia, Bond activates one of the Lotus Esprit's defensive weapons. 4 nozzles emerge from behind the license plate and spray wet cement onto the windscreen of the pursuing Ford Taunus, completely blinding the driver and sending the car careening off the winding mountain road. It's a memorable moment that looks convincingly like concrete being splattered across glass at high speed. But if you were expecting the production team to actually use cement for this dangerous high-speed stunt, you'd be completely wrong. The substance that came flying out of those nozzles and smacked into the windshield wasn't cement at all. It was ordinary gray oatmeal, the same breakfast food you'd find in any kitchen cupboard. The special effects crew simply mixed up batches of oatmeal, added gray coloring to make it look like wet concrete, and loaded it into a pumping device carried on a camera truck that followed the cars during filming. A hose ran from this truck to the modified Lotus, allowing the crew to squirt the oatmeal mixture at precisely the right moment during each take. This kitchen ingredient approach was brilliant for several reasons. Oatmeal has almost the perfect consistency when wet to mimic concrete slurry, sticking convincingly to glass and running down in realistic streaks. It was also completely harmless, so even if something went wrong during the high-speed chase filming on those narrow Sardinian mountain roads, nobody would get injured by actual concrete flying around. The oatmeal could be easily washed off between takes without damaging the vehicles or requiring extensive cleanup. It's one of those perfect low-tech solutions that looks completely convincing on camera while being simple, safe, and inexpensive to execute. Fact 7. Colin Chapman's personal car was borrowed. Mid-filming. The production of The Spy Who Loved Me required multiple Lotus Esprits to accomplish all the different stunts and scenes. Some needed to drive normally, some were just empty shells for underwater transformation shots, and one was the actual functioning submarine. Lotus had delivered 2 complete street-legal production vehicles to the Bond team, along with several additional body shells that could be modified for special effects work. But as filming progressed through the challenging car chase sequences on the winding roads of Sardinia's costa, Smeralda, the production team, realized they needed one more fully operational road car to capture all the shots they had planned. Since the Lotus Esprit was brand new at the time, having just launched in 1976, there weren't many examples in existence anywhere in the world. The filmmakers reached out to Lotus headquarters with their problem, and Colin Chapman, the founder and chairman of Lotus Cars himself, made a remarkably generous decision. He personally loaned his own Esprit to the production crew, allowing them to use his private vehicle in a James Bond movie where cars routinely get crashed, shot at, and blown up. This wasn't some spare car sitting in a corporate garage. It was Chapman's actual personal automobile that he drove himself. The willingness to hand over his own car speaks to how much Chapman believed in the marketing value of having a Lotus featured prominently in a Bond film. His instinct proved absolutely correct, as the movie appearance would transform Lotus from a respected but niche British sports car manufacturer into a globally recognized brand associated with high-tech sophistication and style. Fact 8. It cost $100,000 to build, about $425,000. Today, creating a Lotus Esprit that could actually function as a submarine wasn't a simple matter of sealing up a regular car and hoping for the best. It required extensive custom engineering by specialists who understood underwater vehicle construction. The production team contracted Perry Oceanographic Incorporated, a marine engineering firm based in Riviera Beach, Florida, that had previously built submarines and underwater equipment for the United States Navy. Perry Oceanographic took one of the Lotus Esprit body shells supplied by the car manufacturer and essentially built an entirely new vehicle inside and around it. They installed 4 electric motors to power propellers that could push the craft through water, added ballast tanks to control buoyancy and diving depth, sealed critical components in watertight compartments, and fitted fins where the wheels would normally be to provide stability and control. The total cost for Perry Oceanographic to design and construct this one-of-a-kind submarine came to approximately $100,000 in 1976 money. Adjusted for inflation to today's values, that would equal roughly $425,000, a substantial investment, but considered worthwhile for one of the most spectacular sequences in Bond film history. It's important to understand that despite using 6 different Esprit vehicles during filming, only this single peri-oceanographic submarine was actually capable of moving underwater under its own power. The other Esprits were either regular road cars used for the Sardinian chase, empty body shells used to show different stages of the transformation sequence, or dummy cars rigged for specific stunts like being fired into the water. Fact 9. Beach exit used a sweeping brush to hide the tow rope. One of the most memorable moments in The Spy Who Loved Me comes near the end of the underwater sequence, when Bond's Lotus submarine suddenly emerges from the Mediterranean Sea onto a crowded beach in Sardinia, shocking the sunbathers who watch in disbelief as a car drives out of the ocean. The scene was filmed on October 5th and 6th of 1976 at Capriccioli Beach in Sardinia, intentionally scheduled during the off-season when tourists wouldn't be around. Though extras were brought in to populate the beach for filming, what audiences see on screen looks like a miraculous moment of a fully functional submarine simply driving up onto shore under its own power. But the reality behind the cameras was far more mechanical and clever. The production team couldn't risk the expensive submarine getting stuck in the sand or damaged during this crucial shot, so they came up with an ingenious low-tech solution. They buried a tow rope under the sand along a carefully planned path from the water's edge up onto the beach, with the other end of the rope attached to a winch system that could slowly pull the Lotus along this hidden track. The really clever part was how they concealed the rope's movement. A large sweeping brush was mounted to the underside of the Lotus, positioned so that as the car got pulled forward, the brush would sweep sand over the rope behind it, completely hiding any trace of the cable from the camera. Once the dummy Lotus reached its mark on the beach, the production switched to filming a real, fully operational Esprit that could drive normally, which is what you see actually moving past the amazed beachgoers in the final shot. Fact 10. Roger Moore's fish gag was almost cut. Roger Moore was famous throughout his tenure as James Bond for his playful sense of humor on set, often pulling pranks and adding spontaneous comedic touches to lighten the mood during long filming days. During the shooting of the beach scene where the Lotus Esprit emerges from the ocean, Moore decided to add an unexpected bit of physical comedy that wasn't in the script. As the White Lotus rolled up onto the sand past the shocked sunbathers, Moore casually rolled down the driver's side window and tossed a small fish out onto the beach before driving away, as if it had somehow gotten trapped inside the supposedly watertight submarine during its underwater journey. The crew found it hilarious, but a producer, Albert Cubby Broccoli, had serious concerns about the joke and told the crew they would need to reshoot the scene without the fish. His reasoning made logical sense. He asked how Bond could possibly be throwing a fish out the window when the car was supposed to be completely waterproof and sealed to function as a submarine. It seemed like the kind of continuity error that would pull audiences out of the movie and make them question the reality of the submarine car. However, when both versions of the scene were screened in the dailies the following day, the fish gag got such enormous laughs from everyone watching that Broccoli completely changed his mind and decided to keep Moore's improvisation in the final cut. He realized that sometimes a perfect comedic moment is worth more than strict logical consistency, and the fish toss became one of the most quoted and beloved moments in the entire film. Fact 11. One car shot off a pier. Using an air cannon, the sequence where James Bond drives the Lotus Esprit off the end of a pier and into the sea is one of the most iconic moments in the entire James Bond franchise, setting up the spectacular underwater action that follows. Filming this dramatic stunt required careful planning and some powerful special effects machinery. The production team designed and built a custom launching system that used compressed air rockets to propel a full-size Esprit body down the pier at high speed. The car was mounted on a specially designed rig and guided by steel cables to keep it traveling in a perfectly straight line toward the water. When the compressed air system fired, it accelerated the Esprit rapidly until it was traveling at approximately 70 kilometers per hour, which equals about 43 miles per hour by the time it left the end of the pier. That's fast enough to look dramatic and convincing on camera without being so fast that the stunt would become impossible to control safely. Since this was an extremely dangerous setup involving a heavy vehicle being launched through the air at significant speed before crashing into the water, the production team wisely chose not to risk any human stunt performers for this particular shot. Instead, the Esprit was manned by crash test dummies positioned in the driver and passenger seats, making it look like Bond and Anya Amasova were inside while keeping everyone safe. Special effects supervisor Derek Meddings noted that getting the timing and speed exactly right required multiple tests and calculations because the car needed to hit the water at just the right angle to look realistic rather than simply belly flopping awkwardly. Fact 12. The Esprit's wedge shape created a diving problem. The Lotus Esprit's distinctive wedge-shaped design, penned by legendary Italian automotive designer Giorgetto Giugiaro, is one of the most recognizable car shapes in automotive history. That sharp, angular profile with its low nose and steeply raked windscreen wasn't just stylish. It was specifically engineered to provide aerodynamic efficiency and create downforce when driving at high speeds on regular roads. Downforce is the pressure that pushes a car down onto the road surface, improving tire grip and handling during cornering and high-speed driving. For a sports car meant to be driven on winding mountain roads and racetracks, this design philosophy made perfect sense. But when the Bond production team decided to convert the Esprit into a submarine, they ran into an unexpected problem with that carefully calculated aerodynamic shape. The same wedge design that created beneficial downforce on land would continue to create that same downward pressure underwater, essentially trying to push the submarine deeper and deeper toward the ocean floor rather than maintaining a stable depth. This wasn't just a minor inconvenience. It would make the submarine almost impossible to control properly during filming. The engineers at Perry Oceanographic had to figure out how to counteract this undesirable diving force while still maintaining the recognizable Esprit shape that made the car famous. Their solution was to add custom-designed fins in the wheel well areas, positioned where the wheels would normally be on a regular Esprit. These fins acted like airplane wings or submarine diving planes, creating lift forces that balanced out the downward pressure from the wedge-shaped body, allowing the submarine to maintain stable depth and maneuver properly. Fact 13. Lotus sales exploded, creating a 3-year waiting list. The decision to feature a Lotus Esprit in The Spy Who Loved Me turned out to be one of the most successful product placements in automotive history, completely transforming the fortunes of the relatively small British car manufacturer. Before the film's release in July of 1977, Lotus was respected among automotive enthusiasts for building lightweight, well-handling sports cars, but the company struggled to break through to mainstream consumer awareness beyond the racing and sports car community. The Esprit had only been in production since 1976, so it was still a new and relatively unknown model that most people had never heard of. All of that changed virtually overnight when The Spy Who Loved Me became a massive box office hit, grossing $185.4 million worldwide. Suddenly, everyone wanted the white sports car they had seen James Bond drive underwater. Demand for Lotus Esprits, particularly white ones, surged to levels the small manufacturer had never experienced before and simply couldn't handle with their limited production capacity. Prospective buyers who contacted Lotus dealerships hoping to purchase an Esprit were told they would need to join a waiting list, and not just any waiting list. The backlog had grown so enormous that new customers faced a 3-year wait before they could take delivery of their car. That's 36 months from placing an order to actually receiving the vehicle, an almost unheard of delay that actually seemed to increase the car's desirability rather than discourage buyers. The movie transformed Lotus from a niche sports car manufacturer into a legitimate supercar competitor that could stand alongside Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Porsche. Fact 14. The rear view mirror came from an Army tank building. A functioning submarine required solving numerous practical problems that Perry Oceanographic's engineers had never encountered before. One particularly tricky challenge was providing adequate visibility for the pilot during underwater maneuvers. Don Griffin, the retired Navy SEAL who piloted Wet Nellie during filming, needed to be able to see not just forward through the windscreen, but also behind the submarine to navigate safely and position the vehicle correctly for camera shots. However, installing a conventional rearview mirror wouldn't work because Griffin and his co-pilot were wearing full scuba masks and sitting in a flooded interior with water swirling all around them. A normal mirror would be useless in those conditions. When Griffin voiced his concerns about the need for rearward vision to the Perry Oceanographic team, they came up with a creative solution by raiding military surplus equipment. They sourced a prismatic mirror from an old Army tank, the same type of periscope mirror system that tank commanders use to see outside their armored vehicles. This specialized mirror was designed to work in challenging conditions and provide clear viewing angles even when the viewer's position is limited. The tank mirror was mounted on the roof of the Lotus submarine, giving Griffin the rearward visibility he needed while keeping the mirror protected and functional even while completely submerged in seawater. It's a perfect example of how special effects work often involves creative repurposing of existing technology rather than inventing everything from scratch, and it shows how practical filmmaking problems sometimes require looking to completely different industries for solutions. Fact 15. Richard Keel's son appears pointing at the car. In the climactic beach scene where the Lotus Esprit emerges from the Mediterranean Sea onto the sand, shocking the sunbathers who had been peacefully enjoying their day, careful viewers might notice a young boy among the extras who points excitedly at the incredible sight of a car driving out of the ocean. That small child wasn't just a random local kid hired as an extra. He was Richard George Keel, the real-life son of Richard Keel, the towering 7'2" actor who played one of the most memorable villains in Bond history, the steel-toothed henchman Jaws. Having the son of the film's main villain appear in this iconic scene as an enthusiastic witness to Bond's escape creates an amusing bit of behind-the-scenes irony that most viewers would never catch without knowing the casting connection. Richard Keel was famous for playing intimidating characters due to his extraordinary height, which was caused by acromegaly, a condition resulting from excess growth hormone. Despite his fearsome on-screen presence as Jaws, Keel was known by cast and crew as a gentle, kind person who enjoyed having his family visit the set during filming. Including his young son in this memorable sequence gave the family a special connection to one of the most famous scenes in the movie. The beach scene was filmed at Capriccioli in Sardinia during October of 1976, during the off-season when regular tourists weren't around, so the production brought in local extras to populate the beach and react to the submarine's surprise appearance, making it easy to include Richard George Keel among them. Keel among them. Keel among them. Keel among